this will be part of his story. This will be part of his legacy. Once you've done something like this, you never shake that off. That tag is always with you.
But it doesn't seem, Lewis, that the work's done in the transfer market. Do you still expect, and you know the name I'm going to mention, Isak to be at Anfield by the start of the season?
Well, that's the golden question that no one seems to have the answer to, but it is a saga that's going to keep rumbling on until maybe even right up into the deadline in 3 weeks. But yeah, as you say, 295 million spent. I would not be surprised at all if that gets close to 500 million, honestly. It's been absolutely non-stop for Liverpool. They've got the money to spend, so fair play. It's that old analogy, fix the roof while the sun's shining, and the sun is absolutely shining. But they're going all out to try and make this not just a one-off, but a dynasty, to try and go one better in the Champions League as well. And if Alexander Isak comes in, then they've got every chance of doing that.
Lewis, a lot of the Liverpool fans I know have actually been saying it's more important to get a defender in. What's your view on that?
Yeah, well, I wrote an article saying that a few weeks ago, and I got all sorts of abuse on Twitter the next morning saying, oh, you just don't want them to sign Isak. But no, both are necessary, but a defender is more pressing, I think, because if you look at their three centre-halves, they've got Virgil van Dijk, who is 34, not getting any younger. They've got Ibrahima Konate, who has got 12 months left in his deal with Real Madrid circling. And you've got Joe Gomez, who is injury prone, to say the least. Very nice lad, but he's not been fit at all in the last year. So if one of Van Dijk or Konate, touch wood they don't, but if they break the leg on Friday night, then they are very, very thin. So I think a defender is crucial. But it does sound like that will happen. Mark Gay is close to happening as it stands.
Yeah, you got the feeling that was the conversation, that was the mood of the conversation after the Community Shield, Lewis, that, you know, even Steve Parish kind of acknowledged, didn't he, that he was on his way.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fact that Steve Parish said that Gahey could be, that they would sell him, or if the money was put up, they would sell him, then I think that sort of, we all knew where it was heading then. And he's a great player. He's 25. He's an England international. Yes, 35 million for a player who's out of contract next summer is maybe a bit steep. But if you look at it with a glass half full, then it's 35 million for an England international, the Crystal Palace captain who's just won the FA Cup. I think it's a good deal for all parties.
Actually, Newcastle must be sick of the sight of Liverpool. We know all about the Isak thing, but obviously Newcastle were keen to sign Gay last summer. Couldn't get it done. Obviously, the Palace weren't as willing at that point. They were still hopefully he might stay and sign, but he didn't. But yeah, it's another player that Newcastle had their eye on once upon a time.
What do you think Chelsea fans will make of the Gay story? You know, they let him go to Palace and now he's going to end up at Liverpool. I'd be pretty frustrated, I think, if I was a Chelsea diehard, Lewis.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for Chelsea fans to be a bit annoyed at Liverpool at the moment, because not only is Gahey, one of their academy graduates, going to end up at Liverpool, someone that they let through the cracks in terms of, you think of, you know, De Bruyne and all these other players that they've let go in the last 10 years who have gone on to have great careers, but also the best kid in Liverpool's academy, Rio Ngamoa, was poached from Chelsea this time last year, and he is the sort of player that if he was playing in one of the top European leagues, everyone would be saying he's worth 100 million. So he is young, so you have to be careful with his development. But Chelsea, from what I hear, I've been doing some digging this week, they are furious still that Ngamoa is at Liverpool. So maybe he's one of the names to watch out for this season.
What position is he, Lewis?
Left winger.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
What's that say about Ben Doak? That's for another day. You know, help us with the context here, Lewis, because Slot has spoken of radical changes, right? Do you think all eyes are going to be on him with this new look team, because a lot of money has been spent?
Yeah, I think if I cast my mind back to this time last year, I would be predicting Liverpool maybe a third or fourth place finish, whereas now anything but winning the league is seen as, well, maybe not a failure, but all eyes are on them. They are the team to beat. The pressure is on. Slot claims he can deal with the pressure. When he was at Feyenoord in his first season, he signed 7 or 8 players in that second window, second summer, and they went on and won the league. So maybe he does like an overhaul. But if they lose a couple of games early on, then the pressure, obviously his job is 100% safe, but the pressure will be mounting from rival fans especially. So there is a lot of, they need these players to gel quickly. And there has been a few teething issues in pre-season, especially defensive-wise.
So Lewis, just going quickly back to the Isak and the situation that comes about, and it's a golden question: will he sign before the transfer window? Doing at Newcastle, for example, the statements yesterday that he won't play for Newcastle ever again. Is that type of player that you would want at your club, thinking he could do it again to another club like Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it's something in the back of the minds of the Liverpool fans, and you have to think as well the way that the Liverpool fans treated Trent Alexander-Arnold for wanting to leave for Real Madrid. But I think that they can football is a bit of a fickle game, isn't it? And they will forget about all that if they're getting Alexander Isak, just the quality of player he is. And I think that they, from what I've seen on social media, they're framing it more as, look how much this player wants to play for us. Look how desperate he is to play for us. He'll already be a hero if he ends up playing for Liverpool. So there's two ways of looking at it. But I think the Liverpool fans are just desperate for anything. If I put a story out on social media, all the replies are, what about Isak? What about Isak? So it's all they're talking about at the moment. If you walk around the city, it's all people are talking about. I'm sure it's the same up in Newcastle as well.
The thing with Isak is that I think the reason there's so much of that excitement that you talk about is that there are so few oven ready Premier League centre forwards out there. If you look at the players that people like Manchester United, Arsenal, and Liverpool already have bought to play in their forward positions, they are largely untried from outside the Premier League. Okay, Chelsea bought Delap from Ipswich; he has experience. Whether you'd say he was top level, let's see. But Isak he's just ready, isn't he? You're moving from one team into another, and you expect him to go. So that's why you get the excitement. But what I will say about him is that wherever he goes now, and whatever happens at Liverpool and beyond, this will be part of his story. This will be part of his legacy. Once you've done something like this, essentially refused to play, told the club you don't want to play, then you never shake that off. That tag is always with you. Listeners of a certain age may remember the Pierre Van Hooijdonk saga at Nottingham Forest back in the late 90s. I was covering Forest at the time for the local paper. Nottingham Forest got promoted from the Championship into the Premier League, and Van Hooijdonk went on strike. He wanted to move. He went on strike. Without going into the bones of the story, what I do know, because I still speak to Pierre occasionally now, he's about my age, is that he regrets that. The grievances that he had at the time against the Forest board, he still thinks were valid. But the fact that he took that nuclear option of essentially withdrawing his labour, going on strike, going home to Holland and not coming back for pre-season, he regrets that.
And with that in mind, Ian,
even in his 50s, it still follows him.
And with that in mind, do you think this is going to tarnish Isak for whatever happens next in his career?
Well, it certainly stays with him, Gordon. Yeah. Tarnish, only he will know how it feels, okay? Only he will know how it feels, but he will be known as, whatever he achieves in the future and wherever he goes, he will be known as that player who did that to get that move. He will, because not that many players have pressed this button over the years. We know others who have. Raheem Sterling did it to get from Liverpool to Man City. Remember what Liverpool fans thought about that. It has happened before, and it will happen again. But players who do it have to be aware that it's not something that they walk away from. It's there on your CV for as long as you play.
But Newcastle have had like a year to prepare for this, because from what we understand, that he told them last summer that he would maybe do one season and then look to move on this summer. We've seen in the past with people like Jack Grealish going back 5 years at Villa, sort of inserted that release clause to protect Villa. Alexis McAllister, who came to Liverpool, sort of had a unwritten agreement with Brighton that he would leave after one more year. So Newcastle have had time to prepare. It's not like he's just thrown this on them 2 weeks ago. They may be living in denial a little bit about that, because they've known all along that he wanted to leave. They should have had their options lined up well in advance, rather than scrambling around just saying, "Oh, I'll try for that striker, I'll try for that striker." So it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. But as Ian says, I do think it will probably end up with him at Anfield.